Hello, my name is Jennifer Self, and this is Enhancing Technology and Curriculum in Today's Elementary Classroom. The concentration courses I took during the Baker MAED program were School Improvement in the 21st Century, Digital Classroom Transformation, Enhancing Instruction with Technology, Issues and Ethics with Technology, Google Tools for Educators, and lastly, Technology Trends, Tools, and Media. I am excited to explain the learning that took place during my courses and how that learning has had a positive effect on me and my students. The first course I want to discuss is EDU 5033, School Improvement in the 21st Century. I am glad this was one of the first courses I took because it laid a foundation for what I needed to do in my classroom and in my other courses. I received a lot of important information from the text, Transformational Teaching in the Information Age, by Thomas Rosebrough and Ralph Leverett. A quote from that text that has really stuck with me is, "Transformational teaching places learners' total academic, social, and spiritual welfare at the center of our philosophy of teaching." After reading that section of the book, I chose to enhance my own teaching philosophy by learning more about how to offer support to my students academically, socially, and spiritually. During EDU 5033, we did a case study for a student we believed to be at risk. Before I could choose a specific student in my class to study, I needed to decide on a population of students I believed struggled in the classroom and were considered to be at risk for not graduating. My professor, Melinda Rangel, offered many suggestions for student populations. Ultimately, I chose students who have been diagnosed with ADHD. I chose that population because it was something that I had seen a lot in my students and something that they struggled with. Also, I feel as though the percentage of students being diagnosed with ADHD is increasing in my school district. I am going to show you parts of my case study so that you can better understand how this learning has affected my current and future teaching practices. Once I chose a student for the study, the first area that was looked at was the student's personal qualities. Without having a relationship with the student, it can be difficult to help them. It is helpful to know the student's situation at home and to see what kind of support they are getting. If a student is living in a single-family household, like this one, with more than one child, it can sometimes be difficult to provide consistency and structure if the parent does not have an adequate support system. I think it is important to get to know every student, but when a student is struggling, a trusting and close relationship is vital if you want to see any improvements. While getting to know my student, I discovered many of his likes and dislikes. I discovered that he liked being active, using electronics, and that he did not like working with his peers on academics. He did not like reading, nor did he like sitting in his chair. This information gave me the foundation for the interventions I was eventually going to implement. Before coming up with interventions, I needed to figure out all of the indicators that were causing the student to be at risk. My first grade student had multiple risk factors, such as frequent tardies and absences, being retained, low socioeconomic status, and of course, having an ADHD diagnosis. With the hopes of supporting this student, I began researching ways to support students with ADHD in the classroom. When it came to finding resources for my student, I had to look inside and outside of the school setting. Finding resources inside the school setting was somewhat easy because I am more familiar with them. I began working closely with my colleagues and supervisors to help this student. We discussed a general education intervention plan before the possibility of special education. That is the protocol that you are supposed to follow before you can qualify a student for and test them for special education. Before developing the GEI plan, I did research and found scholarly articles on ways to support students with ADHD. A 1998 study conducted by Anault, McNeil, and Balt saw positive results in the behaviors of students with ADHD. The study consisted of using an individual behavior chart with the red, yellow, and green color system. The students would earn stickers for being on green by the end of the day, and then they would save the stickers and turn them in for different tangible rewards once they earned enough stickers. For my particular student, I chose to piggyback off of this idea. I changed the behavior chart a little because my particular student needed a daily reward. I still used the red, yellow, and green color system, but in a slightly different way. My student had 2 goals. One goal was to keep his hands to himself, because that's something he struggled with. His second goal was not to talk when the teacher is talking or talk to his neighbors during independent work time. If he displayed one of these behaviors, he immediately saw that his color was moved down. I would only explain why it was moved if the student asked me. If the behavior was corrected, the color was moved back immediately. This process would continue throughout the whole day. It really helped the student to stay on task because they could visually see what they were working for that day and how far they were from getting the reward. At the beginning of the day, the student was able to pick his reward, and it is displayed on his behavior chart. The rewards I offered my student for ending up on green by the end of the day consisted of tangible rewards like a snack, stickers that were just for fun, candy, smelly markers, or crowns for him to keep. Some of the intangible rewards that I offered to him were designated amounts of time to play on the iPad with Play-Doh, coloring, and getting to meet with one of his favorite teachers to receive praise for having a great day. I used more information from that same study that proved the students with ADHD respond negatively to being given a negative consequence. If my student ended up on red, he did not receive his reward for the day, and that was handled in a positive way. We had a short discussion about what he needed to do tomorrow to have a better day. He was also able to change his reward for the next day if he wanted to. He could keep it the same if he chose to. This short meeting with me and him reinforced the behaviors that I wanted to see. It also gave the student hope and reassurance that I did not think he was a bad student and that there is a chance to start off with a clean slate tomorrow. In addition to a behavior chart, the students' behavior plan consisted of alternative seating, breaks for extra movement and exercise, and seeing the counselor for social skills practice. A different study by Kirkwood and Banda proved that students with ADHD improved on comprehension test scores due to using wiggle seats during their assessments. Since the case study, I have used the behavior chart and wiggle seats with many of my other students, and it has proved to have been very successful. As another part of my implementation and improvement plan for the student, I had to come up with a list of optional outside resources for the parent to consider. I learned from doing this case study that sometimes parents need assistance with supporting their child at home. Most of the time, the parents are grateful when it is presented in a respectful and non-judgmental way. I offered the following resources to my at-risk students' parents. One of the resources was a mentor through Big Brothers Big Sisters. The next resource I presented to them was the Harvesters Food Program. A third resource that I offered was a peer tutor that would meet with the student before or after school. And the last resource I offered to my students' parents was a local family service and guidance center. The Family Service and Guidance Center offers counseling and referrals to psychiatrists if they think the child needs it. I believe the success of my case study was due to many factors. One contributing factor was becoming aware of resources in the city where my students live. Since I do not reside in the city I teach in, I had to collaborate with members of the community to find what I needed. I am now confident and efficient at recommending resources to my students and their families. Another contributing factor was choosing to use research-based methods along with modifying them to fit the individual needs of my students. As a result of using research-based methods, my students have benefited emotionally and academically. They are more eager to come to class and participate. They are not confined to a traditional chair and desk for the entire day. They can stand up while they work and have choices for the type of seating they sit in. I learned to be more flexible with the management of my classroom and to not expect my students to adapt to my wants and needs.